Hi, it's Hazel and welcome to my channel, Hazel and Aka Design. This is kind of an impromptu video. It is part 2 in the purple, teal, get her done series that I'm using to get some stuff done. Now if you watched part 1, you know that I had sort of a journal topper part way there. And it could have been adequate, I guess, but it kind of bugged me in that it seemed like, I don't know, there were, what am I trying to say? That maybe it wasn't as balanced as it could be. That hydrangea was a big mass of flat, fairly pale color. Anyway, I started putzing around with a few other items. I found this little bit of periwinkle satin ribbon. Oh, and I should say, and if you haven't already, if you've heard this tip, then ignore it. I have this little travel flat iron that I finally brought into the studio, plugged in today, and it did, it worked reasonably well. I mean, if it was a professional grade, full-sized one, would have worked better. This probably doesn't get really that hot. But it was enough to take the worst creases out of, I mean, I didn't iron this, obviously, out of the pieces of ribbon that I was using. So I couldn't find a stack of flammable paper to rest it on, so I was using my ceramic coaster. But anyway, you do want to lay it on something flammable if you possibly can, because, hey, nothing like a fire in the studio to create some excitement. And in case, do I need to say that that is sarcasm? I'm not responsible for any arson attempts. Anyway, so I started gathering a few things together. Found this ribbon and thought, oh, this works perfectly. Before that, I decided I wanted to use this watch or this clock face. If you saw, and who knows when it was, a thrift video, no, not a thrift video, a video where I was deconstructing button covers and shoe clips, which was a thing back in the day. Anyway, the clock faces are one of the more interesting things that I had, so I thought, okay, let's work that in. But if you can picture it without the black stitching, it was like, oh, there's some black. So I thought, well, okay, let's do some messy stitching, introduce black, like have some black running through this whole thing. And that helped. But then I glued down, and I used Fabri-Tac for most of this. Excuse me. I glued down segments of this periwinkle ribbon. These loops looked kind of nice initially, but now they're kind of looking a little too regular, a little too contrived. So what I may do is just slit them open. I don't know, that might not be a good idea. Or maybe if I mess them up a bit and they look less, yeah, let's do that. Less like they were, came out of a factory or something. We want it more artsy. Now, I notched the edges because I'm kind of doing this wrong. I kind of notched the edges because that will delay or whatever the... see, look how much better that looks. I don't know if I have enough to work with here, but I can... Maybe I'll just put a dab of glue on the side of this clock. Doesn't take much, of course, because Fabri-Tac has good hold. But just, kind of a bit to... Yeah, I feel better about that. And some of these tails are not exactly glued down. So if I wanted to add, yes, let me do that. Do you love my closure? I just have that elastic on there to try to train the book to stay a little bit closed. I don't know what you can see. It doesn't exactly slide on this elastic. I also had a bunch of, these threads that you get when you tear fabric or whatever. So I used a bunch of those to break up to add a little more dimension and interest, but also to break up the flatness of just plunking that clock face down. I could probably even do a little something here. That purple floral, what do you call it? Well, I guess it's trim of some sort, is something that I salvaged off a thrifted sweater. Here are some of the other pieces I got off there, plus more of the purple one, of course. So I was happy that I'm using it, because, a lot of times we have good intentions and then don't actually, yeah, that makes me feel better. Don't actually remember to use them when the time comes. I had a piece cut off that I had already sort of flattened out, so I thought, oh, why don't I just add a little bit of that ribbon at the end here. So all I did was cut it, 3 pieces, and glued it down to that cardstock. Now, again, picture it without this label, and luckily for you, I spared you the pain of watching me go through some of my black labels. I just love these things. Now, there's probably one that says journal, but I needed to stop looking and start doing. These ovals and these all were a freebie from Artie Mays. So sometimes nothing but black will do. And so anyway, this is not an Artie Mays, but it seemed to be about the right size. I trimmed this one to within an inch of its life, and I'm going to stick that down. Now, whether or not that is going to now be enough, I guess remains to be seen. I'm using art glitter glue. What I wanted to say was that I tend to prefer things. I guess I wanted to say I prefer things kind of straight. Well, maybe that's not quite right either. But look, let me glue this down while it's still got some stick left in it. Oopsie, slide over. Come on. That wasn't so good. Anyway, you can see these leaf points. Now, they could be a point of concern if they start getting beat up and mangled by the edge. So I could reshape the leaf a bit on each side, and I probably should do that just to give myself a little more freedom. Anyway, I thought, well, what is up here? Like, what is straight? And does it matter if that clock face is angled? So I kind of offset that a bit. I cut a bit of the purple trim off and kind of ran it around there. Oh, and there's also this part of this teal gift bag under here that I kind of inked with some darker blue. Okay, let's clean some of this up. And I think, if you're keeping score and if you're making notes or whatever, I would think that this style is what I'm going to call the kitchen sink style. So is there anything I haven't thrown at this yet? Well, yes, there is. How about some gems? So I pulled out a few that I think can work. is, you know, like when is too much enough? When is enough too much? I think I said that wrong. Anyway, you get where I'm going with that. First of all, let me just reshape this leaf a bit. So I'm just going to basically follow the contours, but I'm going to, whoopsie, don't have that much space to work on this side. Oh, where's my little blue anchored thing? That's not it. So that gives me a wee bit more room to, I'm going to make this one quite a bit smaller, for positioning. Because, you know, who knows what I might want to do in the end. Okay, let me get this elastic on. It's preventing this thing from sliding. Okay. For some reason, this part here still kind of annoys me. It feels like it's too much, but I'm not going to trim it off just yet. I also thought that if I need to punctuate this with more black, then certainly one of these black, maybe not the biggest one. Let's take this one and put it down somewhere. Don't trust the adhesive on here. And again, you know, is all of this trial and error, as what Rachel from Roxy Creations would say, auditioning? Is all of this necessary? You know, it was probably a perfectly, as I said, adequate journal topper. Before I started adding all these other things. But if a person can't sort of go hog wild on the topper, then where can you? You don't have to be as concerned here with bulk. You know, I would never use something this thick inside. You know, same thing with gems. Sometimes they're just a bit too much. Now, I also have, you know, have picked out this one. Now, when is it too much? I don't know that we're there yet. I do know, maybe I'm going to lift this a smidge. I'm not sure what you can see. Oh, you can probably see quite well. You know, I don't know, like these leaves are still quite a big, vast, open area. I don't know. How about is this a princess cut? So when I glue this down, I'm going to aim to have this look straight and everything else can be off, because that'll be so artsy. Maybe this is too big. Maybe that's why it's sort of bugging me. I really didn't intend this whole video to be me playing with these few little for some reason, I don't really care for, now I've got those millions of little guys. Do you see these little teeny weeny things. I shouldn't have spilt that. This gets lost on there. I don't know. I don't know. This one, it maybe is a bit too big. That's kind of cool. Yeah, let's throw that one back. Okay, I can't dither anymore. That one is really, some of these are really sort of, do you see how they've got that depth to them? Probably more like replacement gems for maybe a piece of jewelry or something that had some fake stones in it. Okay, I kind of like this arrangement, so let's glue it down and move on. I hope you are well. I've kind of not been in the craft room lately. My daughter and her partner just closed on a house purchase. So, of course, I was there yesterday helping prep her to sell her triplex. And, of course, so that's a case of, it's a combination of sort of cosmetic things, like fix the nicks that you end up with, like in your entrance, the nicks in the paint, I'm saying. Packing and decluttering things that you know that you're not going to need for the next 2 months, as well as staging, which of course is the most fun part and something that I absolutely love. So, yeah, I did a bunch of those things yesterday. Got defeated by some cellular blinds that had been mounted to the inside top of the window casing. And we were taking that sucker out and got most of it out, but haven't yet figured out what the trick was. There has to be a trick to either removing a covering so we can see where the actual screws are to, see where the screws are to undo those. So, it's one of those things where you'd like to take a little sledgehammer to something when it's annoying you so badly. But of course, then we'd probably need a new window. So, restraint and maturity were the order of the day. I don't know what you guys think, but this annoys me to no end. So let's just chop some of this off. Now I would probably go even a little bit. Okay, let me do this without cutting that purple thread. Okay, I feel a bit better about that. Okay, I think that is probably going to do it. Now what I should probably do here is tie a couple of knots, just so, again, it adds another little point of interest. So I'm just quickly sneaking in the taping of this video, and then we're heading back today with the truck and with more tools and more supplies to do some outside work on the, like on the deck, steps, and so on. It, you know, it's one of those things where time is of the essence, so it's not like I did offer my help. I said I can give you a day or possibly two. We're also both sets of, well, I guess, are we in-laws? Both sets of parents are also storing a lot of stuff. So we've been bringing loads of boxes here to the farm, and the other parents live in the city. So, you know, some of that stuff is going there, and yeah, so there will be, there's months of work yet to come, but anyway. Oh, see, that's kind of cool. Why don't I just secure that there with a little dab of, well, could have been a little smaller. That will dry clear. And this, who knows what's happening over here. Maybe that will just dangle, or maybe I'll cut it shorter. Oh, too soon. Anyway, I'm so happy for these guys. They are, they will have a huge lot, like unheard of huge, for an established neighborhood in the city. So I think it's 50 feet wide and something like maybe 170 feet deep or something like that. The people are, they actually met them, which is, I think, typically not advised, you know, between buyer and seller. But they have, apparently, I mean, I've just seen pictures, an incredible yard, like where these people have lived there for 17 years. So it is a mature yard, a lot of open space for, well, it's a fenced yard, but open space for Gertie to do her thing. Gertie is the French bulldog. And for these guys to, you know, to entertain, like it must have been professionally done, a professionally designed, like the hardscaping in there with all the paving stones that were well done, so they're not, you know, lifting or uneven or with weeds in every connection and so on. So several areas where, several areas where there can be either sets of patio furniture or conversation areas. There's a fire pit, you know, that kind of stuff. So I had been instructed to be on the lookout for end of season sales on lawn furniture. So actually I stumbled across a set, and of course, I've learned my lesson. Sometimes you don't even buy a thrift store vase without approval, especially now that that she's her own person. You know, it's not her first property, her first. Anyway, long story short is I sent pictures, I sent info, and then yesterday we took a little break, went over there, she ended up buying it, and his dad will pick it up today. Luckily, the boxes are quite small. Sorry, I'm cleaning and talking and not showing you anything of significance, am I? Anyway, yeah, so like I said, that is a bit of a distraction to me right at the moment, but I am determined to keep crafting and videotaping because I need to get a bunch of these done before harvest begins. Jeez, these things have stuck to my arm. Sooner or later, I'll have this area cleaned enough to open this book up and show you a few more things. I thought maybe we could also, let me check the time. Oh my goodness, 25 minutes. Okay, that's what this is going to be. I will glue this down later. So I don't know if I've done anything in here since I last showed you, but certainly we can do a little bit more. Since I found some of these fibers, I think I showed you that the other day. You know, I've got a bit of this ribbon, this nice little polka dot here. I've got, you know, things like this. What else? I've got these cute little notepads that I made so I can stick those somewhere. But maybe let's add some trim here. I also have these things. This came from this was a great big bow in a floral arrangement I got from his mother as a hostess gift. There's this. So yeah, let's do a little bit of that kind of stuff. Now that rickrack might be kind of nice there with that light mauve showing. So why don't we glue some of that down? If it doesn't get used in this journal, who knows when and where it might. Let me use this to protect things. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So yeah, it's very exciting. I think it's going to be fun to offer my 5 cents worth when it comes to final decor and that, you know, where to hang art and how to, you know, all those kinds of things. Obviously, they will set up the space in a way that works for them, but the other thing that is unusual and is such a nice feature or treat or whatever is that the house is a bungalow. It's not one of those tall, skinny infill type things. So that means, I mean, we live in a bungalow and, you know, obviously on a farm when you've got nothing but land, that's what most people do. In the city, it's a different story because land is at a premium. It's very expensive, you know, that sort of thing. So I'm going to try to get these little bumps kind of touching the edge of the pocket. Then I'll know I'm reasonably straight. So yeah, to have a bungalow in the city, I think is also and it's got like, well, I guess the old-fashioned word is veranda. You know, and it's big enough that a person could actually put some furniture on it. So, yeah, a veranda, front and back. And because these guys accidentally met the owners during the building or at the end of the building inspection process, they've all connected and they have already been invited to a block party, even though they won't officially be living in the neighborhood. And Also, why don't I punch a hole there and put some of this fiber through there? That's not the one I want. Oopsie. They have been promised some gardening tips and tutorial and whatever. And oh, you want the rain barrels? Sure, you can have the rain barrels. This might be nice. I thought this was interesting. It says twister. So I thought it was eyelash trim till I started pulling it apart. And then I see that there is this other separate fiber. So like, hey, bonus. Now what do I want? A bow? Maybe let's cut a bigger chunk off because goodness knows there's lots of it. Oh, I made the... Okay, why don't I just run this through here? Tie a knot. Is that going to work? Run it through single. Tie a knot. And then I can probably make a multi-loop. Geez. A multi-loop bow. One of the things that when we had our craft store and flower shop, I'm going to double knot it. I loved making bows. Now this is... That isn't going to work particularly well. Okay, let me untie this. I probably shouldn't have made that hole. Or what I can do, okay. After I tighten that so much, I probably won't ever get it off. So let's just cut that randomly and make a couple of bows. Oh, see, this is where it would be good. Now, if this was going to be a real bow, I would have a piece of fine wire. Oh, I do have a piece of fine wire right here. You know, like if a person was making a bow for a floral arrangement or, you know, some craft thingamajigger, you'd use... Is this gonna... That might be a bit dinky looking for this size of... Oh, well. For this size of tag. I guess if it looks dumb here, I will just reevaluate and put it someplace else. But anyway, the trick, of course, is the pinching and then the, you know, twisting that so it's nice and the wire so it's nice and tight. Another thing that a person could use, of course, would have been a pipe cleaner, but that's, I don't have one handy, and it is pretty bulky. So, yeah, that's probably okay. Let's bend this down a bit so it doesn't jab me or anybody else. Why is this disappearing before my very eyes? I might have to put a... Okay, let me cut that off. That's dumb. I guess if I want to use it in that way, I would have to put a touch of glue at the end of the... I'm going to put this kind of below so that if I do add something through the hole, I still have access. think I'm just going to put, see how it's unraveling? Exhibit A. Oh my goodness. Maybe it's easier to manipulate the, where's my cover? To manipulate art glitter glue in a situation like this. So I'm just going to clean the nozzle, touch this to the end. And because I did kind of 2 separate lengths, there'll be 4 of these little tails to. Another thing that would work is fray check. I just don't have it within reach. Another thing that will be a bit of a distraction for me, well, a couple of things. Tomorrow, no, that's not going to mean anything to you, what tomorrow is. Let me just say, August 11th, whether you see that before or after, is our wedding anniversary. And, you know, there's that, I don't know about you, but this is how it's been for me. When I was always the youngest in a room, say around a board table or on a council or whatever, I was not at all shy about sort of talking age, because, you know, when you're the youngest, you're, you know, that's probably something to be kind of proud of. But then you cross a threshold, or you cross a decade where, oh, I guess I'm not that young anymore. And I'm also not old enough to be like, damn it, I'm 83 and I've seen the world and I know everything about everything. And if you're not sure, let me tell you. This tag will probably need something else, but for now, I like the way that looks there. Let's just add some of this eyelash to another page. Anyway, so then there are those in-between years where, oh, you're kind of old, but not old enough to be like one of those, you know, bodacious broads that is sort of bragging about being 85. Because that's amazing, you know, you're in such great shape and your mind is intact and all that. So I hesitate to tell you what anniversary it is, because you're going to do the math and you're going to think, oh, gee, she is old. She told us she's as old as dirt, but yeah, now we know that she really is. Anyway, let me just say, August 11th is our 50th anniversary. And for the longest time, like for many years, I used to tell people I was a child bride, because that way it would seem to be a good explanation how someone as incredibly young as I am could possibly be married that long. So I have to say, regretfully, that line hasn't worked for a few years now. You know, when your children have children, that tells you something about how old you might be. Anyway, I'm just going to do a line of glue here. I'm not covering up the those not perforations, what do you call them? Those holes where it got ripped out of a coil book. Anyway, yeah, so we'll obviously go out for supper, someplace nice. I sure as hell am not cooking. The kids are taking us out, well, the kid in Canada and her man are taking us out after we go to the theater on the 20th. So that will be a nice thing, I'm sure. And so that's one thing. Now the, geez, it's like I stole it at this end. And the other thing, we have a custom-made garden shed coming. So that's supposed to be here, delivered kind of mid-August. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have that in the yard and to be able to not stage it, but get kind of organized, you know, where we'll be able to hang up all our gardening tools, like the hand tools, like rakes and spades and hoes and things like that. Have a place to have my pots and so on. I think that looks kind of cool because, I mean, the colors are perfect here. So we had to remove the old garden shed, which is done. We had to delimb the huge branches on the spruce tree shelter belt. Well, on the first tree, the one that's in the way. A shelter belt of spruce trees that is probably planted by my husband's parents. We've been here 35, 6, 7, 8 years maybe. So those trees are probably 60 years old. And then, of course, because the grade is, there's quite a difference in grade, then a whole bunch of gravel needs to be brought here and leveled out to create a, what do we call it? See, if you weren't watching, I would get my centering ruler out because I don't really trust my eye anymore. But we're letting go of perfection. I should have probably used my smaller plunger too. Let's try some of this here. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. To bring a whole bunch of gravel in to create a good solid base for it. So that too is going to require some attention. I'm going to touch this to the end too. You know, another trick, maybe that will be better, is just to tie a couple of knots. And then if it frays a bit, so what? It almost looks fringy. Well, maybe not fringy, more like fuzzy. And at least there is a limit to how far this can unravel. Okay. So let's just, well, let's cover the glue for one thing. I did take some time. Was that last night or this morning? I can't even remember anymore. To go to YouTube and reply to comments because I enjoy the comments and I like writing back to you guys. So there's a first-time person commenting, and I thought it was so funny because you guys with your, I think many of you appreciate my sense of humor and tell me that I give you your giggle for the day or whatever. So I think that sort of maybe gives people some permission to show their sense of humor. Oh my goodness, that's way too long. Let it hang down. To show their sense of humor. Anyway, so this one woman writes, and I don't know her name because she didn't sign it, is she talked about, she loves my series apparently on the what's on my bookcase, and she said, where did this come from? And she said that it's so much fun to have her sticky beak in somebody else's library. And I thought, isn't that cute? Yeah, so when you guys give me good lines, I just appropriate them for myself and use them at will. How would this look here? Maybe not to its best advantage. I have a bunch of these kinds of things. So here's some paper twist. This would make a good topper too. Do I have any cards that need... I could glue this down here and then just add something else. We had our craft store when this kind of stuff was in its heyday. So I kind of like using it. And I have a bunch of it, so I put together some packages, assorted packages, I think 16 different colors, a yard each of this kind of stuff in my Etsy shop because, you know, probably most people don't want to. If they can find it, they don't want to buy, you know, gazillions of yards. So, as a public service, I put together those packages. I'm just sort of working with what it wants to do naturally. So it will be kind of textural, but again, it's only paper and it will, when the page closes, it will just flatten it. So, you know, no harm done in that way. Can you see that I'm just grasping at straws to do something here? Since I don't have a preconceived idea about what to do. No, I don't like that square edge. So, I don't know, can I guess that's maybe a little better. A little raggedy. And if it extends beyond, so on. Oh, I could also do that. And apparently there was enough glue to hold it down too. Okay, cool. What else is here that could be interesting? Tiny bow, some grow grain. That is probably, what color is that? Navy? Let's see, what do I have with these little bows? How many of them are there? I should use them up. That's probably it. So it looks like there are 4 of them. Oh, 5. Yeah, can you tell that I salvaged them from somewhere? Like, I know exactly where. When we had our shop, we sold shadow box frames. And I don't know where the idea came from. I don't know that, I doubt that we invented it. What we would do, like we had a sample up in the store, is mount wedding invitations. So glue down the wedding invitation to the, to a piece of mat board, and then decorate all around it. And there, of course, there was depth because it was shadow box frame. So if the color of the wedding part, like the wedding colors, were not evident from the invitation, then they were just by asking, the bride. And so I remember taking apart, this had been a store sample. It was one that we had done. And the colors at that time were teal and so on. Come on. Do I need to open this to let that air out? Don't really have time to play with this right now. I'm just gluing one of these little bows down. Now the wire and the tails are showing, so obviously I'm going to have to cover that with something else. I don't have within reach my little paper flowers, or I better glue this down. It doesn't feel that secure. You know, I said I plugged in that flat iron for the first time just to try it out. Well, another thing that I should be plugging in and using on probably occasions like this is my glue gun. I mean, for 15 years, that was like an appendage. That was like an extra appendage. It was attached to the end of my arm. Okay, this is too long. Let's do 2 new knots. This, I just love this color. It is so, well, rich, vibrant. I think I talked in a previous video. I'm sure I said it at some point. Or maybe I was talking to myself, who knows. Back in the day when color draping was a thing, like of course, before I went gray, well, no, platinum, I had brown hair, brown eyes, brown hair, brown eyes. And I don't know where I got I must have taken the memo to heart about, oh, if you're brunette, you wear brown. Well, my goodness, that is not necessarily a flattering color. Anyway, so of course I got color draped like the rest of the population. And what I discovered is that I'm in fact a winter. So that meant black, white, and the rich saturated jewel tones. So burgundy, navy, you know, these clear, vibrant colors like this turquoise. You know, kind of stay away from the yellows and oranges and things like that. And in fact, wherever I had that draping done, actually got a thing that looked a bit like a paint chip, what do you call it? Paint deck? Yeah, like for house paint. Paint deck that you could keep in your purse and actually take to the store when you're shopping or whatever. Maybe I should have this go off to the side and not be so predictable and have it go that way. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need a focal point there. But you can see how just with a few little odds and ends that are literally inches in size, a person can create something. This card looks a bit naked, so probably something more will be needed there. But I think this page works because this yellowy background on this paper is repeated in that. And yeah, I don't need to draw you a picture. Oh, thanks. Cool. And this is just a little tiny notepad of, you know, a few little lines. I think this came from the side of one of those Dollarama or Dollar Tree calendars. Anyway, I'm going to stop there because I don't want this to go on forever. And I should be getting ready to go back into the city. Oh, I found a few other things. I cut out, these are parts of a digital that I have. So I cut out the part that shows the purple, obviously. Now I probably should fussy cut along this edge. And this is some mauve lace, pictures of mauve lace. So anyway, yeah, I will be able to use these somewhere as well. So yeah, maybe I'll do that next. I, again, will just sort of, I'll promise you that in the next one, like a part 3 of this particular series, that I will, I'll have it done. I mean, I'll finish it just so that I can draw my next one. I have to confess, I'll tell you right now. Okay, you know that I put together this little doohickey of papers that represent unfinished projects. And it could be either a theme where I've been collecting stuff for a long time, or it could be referencing a cover that I've made and haven't, you know, done the insides for, or haven't completed it. I mean, or haven't started it. Let's be real here. So, luck of the draw, this cover was the same sort of thing as the previous Get Her Done video was. So I thought, I have 6 or 7 of those. I'm not going to let myself keep drawing the same thing, because probably not fair to you, and it would bore me to tears. So I removed those for the time being. Where did I put them? Oh, I know where I put them. And added a few others that I'm kind of hoping I draw. So in the next video, I'll be winding this one up, and we'll be drawing something for the next project. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to staple this on here, and we will call this one done. Where's my little guy? Where's my little guy? Not there. And now this is a Heidi Swap one, a lot less cheaper than the Tim Holtz, just as good. And the beauty of it is that the sort of the generic staples that Michaels sells. Do I have any handy? Anyway, the generic staples that that Michaels has fit in there. So again, same effect without, you know, costing an arm and a leg. Can I get in there to grab this? I have to admit that stapling is not exactly my favorite thing, because I think there's always the potential for that one went well. The potential there to snag things or to poke yourself, but hey, you can't have beauty without a little bit of pain. Anyway, okay guys, whoops, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Bye.